When we left off the last time, we were all set, almost set, to implement this overload of the insertion operator. So remember, what we're trying to do is this thing. We're trying to do this operation. We're trying to insert an object into the console output stream. So we got the compiler to go away there. All we did was we said we're going to have a friend function that's going to be a different function. So it could actually be declared here as a friend function, and it could be defined. Let's say in this piece of code, you could define it here, but we're just gonna to make it a little bit more usable, we'll put it in our .cpp file. Okay, and we got these errors, and I think I just figured out what the problem was. This was, we do need the pound include IOStream. I believe that's better than just OStream, so we could use OStream, but I think that's better. What we're missing is the namespace. So these are all, OStream is in the std namespace, and so wherever we see, we will need standard. And let's see if that will be better. I think it is better here. So no errors here. So that's what we were missing, was standard namespace. And of course we have to do the same thing in our .cpp file. std::. Alright. Let's hope this compiles. Okay, so this doesn't really do anything. All it does is the same as that trivial example, remember, in the notes, where you just have an input and you just return the very same thing back. It doesn't really do anything. Now the compiler is satisfied. It just so happens this doesn't do anything. And if you want to run this, let's go ahead and run it. Yeah, so it works. It's just that it doesn't do anything yet. Now let's figure out what to put in here. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to print out something, and here's how we need to implement that. Here's the big mistake that people make, is they put cout into here. You should not do that. You should use output stream. Okay, so a lot of people make that mistake, and then your program might work in some situations, but you want to use output stream. Here's all you have to do, and let's just do the same kind of thing that we normally use in the toString method. We say whatever this thing is that's on the right hand side of the insertion operator, op dot. Now here's why we use a friend function, because now we can access private data members. So I don't know if you can see this, but there's a red square next to iData and dData. Those are private data members, but we can access them just because this is a friend function. Right? Ordinarily we would have to use a get method, and it works, but it's a little bit inefficient, and so it's more efficient to make this insertion operator a friend operator, and then now we can access the private data members even though they are private, because this is a friend function. Typically we don't put the end line. I'm going to do it just because, well, yeah, let's not do it because we don't need it. We're going to do the end line outside this function. Okay, so here's what it's going to do. Once it all works, we'll put an open square bracket. We'll do the iData, comma, and then the dData. Okay, and then a closed square bracket. So that's the only change we made since our last compile. And let's run it. And there it shows up nicely. Okay, so why do we do all of this? Because this is pretty easy to read. And in fact, what we can do is change all of these things to just a instead of a.getI and a.getD, just do a. Oops. And the same thing here. We get rid of most of this. And typically, almost always, you want to use you don't want to do an end line in the friend function itself. So in the friend function, we just stream the different things that we want to print out, but no end line. Why? Because you want to let the calling function, that is in this case it's the main function, you want the main function to do the end line. So now we'll save this. This is much better. It's more readable. And that's why we're doing all of this. And now we get the kind of thing we can do with a toString method. So it's if you look at this, you compare this versus what Java uses with toString, probably a lot of people would say that, at least I think this way, that the toString method is a much more elegant way of doing things. That is, we don't need these. In Java, we don't need friend functions, and we don't need to redefine this operator and all that. It's, to me, at least, it's a little bit more elegant. Although this works really well. Most C++ programmers are happy with this, and you have to use this for the rest of the semester. Okay. All right. So there's a big, huge example in the book, and I'd highly recommend that you go through this. It does the same kind of thing. There we use the insertion operator. We overload the extraction operator as well with iStream. We'll look at that later. It's the same idea. Once you do one, the other is not so bad. And what's the advantage of overloading the extraction operator? Now you can read stuff directly from the console into your object. So that's just like you can output your object directly to the output stream, you can do the opposite as well. So take a look at this very nice example in the book. I'm just going to I just showed you the our version of the insertion operator, and didn't have all that much logic to it, but the nice thing about the example in the book is it's nice and involved. My example was a lot simpler. Okay. Now, if you want to overload the assignment operator, you can overload it, and here it's different from the insertion operator in that it must be overloaded as a member operator. It is always automatically overloaded. There's a default assignment operator where what you get is a member-wise copy. So each data member is copied from one object to another. So the right-hand side, from the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the assignment operator. So the member variables from one object are copied to the corresponding member variables in the other. This is okay for simple classes, but if you have objects within objects or pointers within objects, then the default assignment operator overload does not work, because you will get what's called a shallow copy. And so in that case, we need to set up our own. Increment and decrement, that is increment and decrement, that is using the ++ operator, that is prefix or pre-increment and post-increment. Those are also overloadable, but you have to have some way of figuring out which one it is. As if you just overload the ++ operator, it's not clear which one C++ will use. Will it use it as a pre-increment or a post-increment? So it's important, as you know, that you get slightly different behavior. So if you use standard overload method, then you get the prefix version. So by the default version, with no operand in the overloaded ++ operator, what you get is the prefix. If you add a parameter of type int, you get the postfix. And now the parameter, actually, it's not used. It's just there for the compiler. It's just telling, if you use a parameter of type int, then that means you're telling the compiler this is going to be postfix or post-increment. Okay, so you'll see this, and you'll see the second parameter and say, what's that used for? And it turns out it's not used for anything. It's just telling the compiler that it's going to be post-increment. And you can do the same. You do the same thing with decrement, pre and post decrement. You can overload the plus operator. So example, if you have a whole bunch of things in your object, a whole bunch of data members, you can index them. So you can overload, if you overload the array indexing operator for your class, you can use with objects of your class, you must return a reference data type. That is a reference to it, whatever you're storing. It can be reference to an int or reference to an object. Okay, and you have to make this a member function. You do not have the option of making it a standalone function. So a lot of things like the plus plus operator, you can have it be a member or a standalone function, in which case you need the second parameter to make a overloaded plus plus standalone function be postfix, and if you only have one parameter, then it is prefix. With the array indexing operator, you'll have to make it a member function. Okay, so try out all of these all the operators that you can overload. Definitely try out every single one of them, and just so that you get more practice writing this. Definitely cout and insertion operator. That's something you have to use for the rest of the semester. So definitely go through this example, this earlier example in the book. Here's how we overload the insertion operator, and remember, it's a friend function. It's a standalone function, but a friend one, so that it can access private data members. Remember, you don't have to make it a friend function, but things just work a lot better when you do. Okay, so try out all these operators, as many as you can.